Hello, 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 good evening, and welcome to the Find Your Why Foundation Wise Words of the Day with myself, Dr. Cheryl Chapman, and with
myself, Dr. Marion Bevington. Yeah, I don't know which side are we on.
That's the right side, yeah, that's the right side. So welcome. If you've been following us for the last couple of days, you will have been late birds, because the...
Night owls.
Night hours, yes, that's the night hours, because we've been doing these little slots at 10:30 at night because Marion loves nighttime. So today we thought we'd just change things up, move it to the tea time slot, and we would like your input, please, because does this time suit you? Do you prefer it later at night? Are you happy to watch a recording, or do you want it at a different time? So that's just a little bit of a question to you, our lovely viewers. On what time would be best for the wise words of the day. So please make a comment in the chat box and let us know. So today the question of the day is, and these questions have come from members of our community, the Find Your Why Live, Love, Laugh Lounge for the ladies and the Man Cave for the men. And the first of the questions, or should I say the question for today is, let me just...
there it is. It's a pink.
Why do I undervalue myself? So, Marion, what do you reckon about this question?
Well, I think that value is something that we perceive as something that's external, and it's calculated by an outer authority. This is all to do with the way that the system that we live in is been constructed. And so we believe that we have to earn the value that we have, and we have to do something in order to deserve it. And yet, if you look on the spiritual side of the identifying with self-value, we all have an equal value spiritually. So if you believe in God, we were all created equal in the eyes of God. I think it says something like that in the Bible. I'm not very up on the Bible for being the perfect presenter of its wisdom, but I know that that's definitely something that I agree with. I don't agree with much in the Bible, but it's one of the things that I do agree with, that we're all equal. And so if we're all equal, then our value is more about who we are, but not about what this external definition of what we deserve or what we need to earn is. But because we've been programmed, we've been taught by society, parents, schools, by their friends, by telly, by radio, by now the internet, we've been taught what this external way of calculating value is. And so we never really quite know if we get there, because it's somebody else's definition. So how can we ever get 100% of someone else's definition? So that's my understanding of why we undervalue ourselves, because we just don't know, because it's somebody else's thing.
Yeah. Does that make sense? It does make sense, yes. We've got lovely Elkie Wallace. Elkie, is that right? Elkie Wallace saying hi. Hi, Elkie, to you. Hi, Cheryl. Hi, Marion. Thank you for joining. Yeah, I mean, I agree, Maz. I think it is, an external, impact. I think that obviously, you can feel undervalued as a child, for example. But the first thing is, I suppose, how can you spot if you are undervaluing yourself? Because, if you're in that space where you don't feel worthy, then how do you know that that is undervaluing as opposed to just the value that you are? So I guess there's a few key things that you might want to spot. So, for example, if you've got something that's going on in your life and you are wanting to make a change, so let's say you've got a relationship that's not serving you very well, or you're working for somebody and you don't think that they're valuing you, if you like, but you're not doing anything about it, guess what? You're undervaluing yourself. Because if you're kind of like complaining about it and going, oh, don't value me, and you don't, because the second sign of being undervalued is the fact that you're avoiding doing something in case you might fail. Oh, well, I better not leave this job because I might not get another job. Or I better not leave this relationship because, I might be on my own and on the shelf. So those are a couple of ways of being able to spot whether or not you are undervaluing yourself. Because obviously, people will only treat you the way that you allow them to, pretty much. I'm sure there may be some exceptions to that. But, if you're putting up with someone's behaviour and then blaming them for undervaluing you, or you feeling undervalued, well, kind of, it's a two-way street here, isn't it? Is there anything else that you can think of that maybe, how people spot that they're being undervalued as well? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's about not feeling good about what you're receiving, or the way that you're identifying what you've received, or how you're comparing what you've received to who you are. So when you're, so like a value is when we say self-esteem, that's kind of similar. That's really similar to self-value or self-worth, because esteem, it means value, doesn't it? It means the price of, or the value that something's given. So when your self-esteem is high, when you know that you're the only one who can do what you do, maybe everybody, we can. So if you're, I don't know, if you can play a piano, and you're in a room full of people who can play pianos, it's much like if you go for an audition, if you're an actor or a singer, everybody in the room presumably can sing or can act, but they're going to choose the one that they want. And so when you arrive in a situation where you're being compared to others, the more you are yourself, I think the more you'll stand out, because you can't compare yourself to others. And so that for me is real recognition of this thing about everybody being equal. Because on one level, we're all really equal. And at the same time, we're all individuals. So there's only one Marion, and there's only one Planet Marion. But that doesn't mean that that's more or less valuable to Cheryl and Planet Cheryl. It doesn't. They have, and in a way, you can't even compare the value, because the outcomes or the experiences would be so different. And yet, I think one of the things, again, to understand what the value might be from the outside is, what's the expected result, or what's the expected outcome, or the expected benefit that somebody has got, that they're going to receive? What are their expectations? And if you know that what you do can provide that, and you do it in your way, as long as the people who have got those expectations, they're managed, and you know that they're going to receive them, then you are 100% of what they need, aren't you? So the value that you would give yourself then would be the cost of them. What's the cost of them not doing something with you? And we use this all the time in business, don't we? The cost of you not sorting your shit out, the cost of you not finding your why, the cost of you not really appreciating why you are where you are right now. And definitely, I know this one, the cost of not knowing what is your why, your purpose, and how can you manifest that? How can you behave to manifest that? All of that costs time, sleep, energy, good mood, because it brings a bad mood. It costs you confidence. It costs so many things. So again, this undervalue creates this under confidence and under energy, and it just depletes us on so many levels.
Yeah. Elke is saying, so related to the topic as a massive breakthrough to do with undervaluing myself this past week in the NLP training.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It is interesting, isn't it? I mean, I think if you're going to invest in yourself, then you're starting to realise that you are valuable and you can invest in yourself. When you start saying, "Oh, that's a little bit too expensive," for what? For you to change your life, for you to change. And there are three things really that the mind does. The mind wants to keep you safe. It wants to, so it loves what's familiar. So so it wants to keep you safe. It loves what's familiar, and it will only do what it thinks you want it to do anyway. So if you're there going, "Oh, I'm not worthy. Oh, I don't think I'm good enough for this. Oh, someone else might be better." And we talked about this, Maz, didn't we, in terms of women going for promotion inside of companies. Yeah. Women, I can't remember what the percentage was. Can you? It was like a woman needs to feel like she can do the role 90% of the things that are listed. Like
over 90%. She needs to feel like she can do over 90% of what.
Whereas guys will probably go for it if it's between 60 and 70. They'll go, "Oh yeah, I know that, and I'll wing the rest of it," or I know enough for that. Yeah. So I think there is this feeling of not knowing, not feeling enough. Mm-hmm. And of course, the work that we do, the big problems turn up in three ways, don't they? I don't feel good enough. I don't think that what's out there is available to me, and I feel different. And that's exactly what you were saying then, Maz. We are all different, yes. But at the same time, if all of us are thinking that we're feeling different, guess what? We're all the same, because we're all thinking the same thing about being different.
And then yes. So we're all equal in value on that respect. We've got, the esteem of us all is the same.
Yeah, and the thing is, actually, Elke's just saying here, lack of self-worth, fear of rejection, putting herself down, and things like that. You know, and it is about doing some work on yourself and realizing that you are, you know, valuable. In the Find Your Why Foundation, and we have an online membership, so if anybody's interested, you know, just pop along to the www.findyourwhyfoundation.com. We have a membership in the Live, Love, Laugh Lounge for the women and in the Man Cave for the men. And one of the topics that we talk about, because obviously it's all right being able to recognize, you know, why I undervalue myself. Well, that can be because of, you know, family, the way that you were brought up. You know, it could be the story, you know, of your life, if you like, you know. So if you can imagine, I remember Marissa Peer, who I trained with RTT, telling us about this guy who was a really famous actor that she did some work with. And she knew straight away that he wasn't valuing himself, even though he'd got Oscars and things, because he was like, oh, those things, oh, they're the bane of my life. I've got one Oscar, I need to get another Oscar now. You know, otherwise everyone thinks this film's shit. You know, oh, I want the best house, I want the best car, you know, etc. And it's because he's trying to find things external for him to make him feel better, when actually, you know, he wasn't valuing himself. And the story goes that, you know, by looking in his past, you know, when he was a kid, you know, his father wouldn't even give him the scraps of food off his plate. He'd give them to the dog before he'd give them to him. So, of course, it was just like, oh my gosh, that is the reason why he then felt undervalued. And as an adult, you know, that little kid, you know, that 5-year-old kid or however old the kid was still inside of him feeling, you know, not good enough. Yeah. And so it just comes from, you know, the stories of your past and also the stories you tell yourself, you know, oh, don't think I'm worth this.
Yeah. And they're all formed, aren't they, from the way that we've been informed through education, and as you say, through society, through family, all these external programs. And I mean, I know, even though I didn't feel valuable in my eyes, the eyes of my parents, I know that they didn't feel valuable in their parents' eyes. And there's like, how far along the chain do I need to go before I can blame somebody? There's no point in doing any of that. I know now what that sense of lacking in value is like, and I can explore that. And now I'm learning more and more every day about how to generate a sense of who I am, the unique being that I am, the value that I have, just for being me, not for anything I do, not for anything I say, not for anything I make, but just being me. This thing about everybody being equal, that the more I can bring that knowledge in as a resource into all those old programs and the old the things that have been installed and informed, the more I can dilute that sense that there is some external measuring kit going, nope, she's not worth that yet. No, she's not yet. She belongs there. So all of these external judgments and all that competition or the categorization, none of that is anything to do with me. It's all about what other people are trying to achieve. And so if I can go, okay, from the inside, really feel the depths of my worth, it then doesn't matter if other people value me or not. We've got that lovely quote, haven't we? Dita Von Teese. And she says, you can be the juiciest, sweetest, ripest peach in the bowl, and there'll still be bastards who don't like peaches. Does the peach have to care? No, I'm being a juicy peach. I don't care if you like me or not. I do care, but that sense that, you know, there is always going to be some external force that's going to be in opposition to what you've got to give. Why make you any less? So the more learning that we have about instilling this sense of self-love, self-worth, self-value, then the less we're going to be impacted negatively by all these things that inform us from the outside.
Well, as we said before, you know, the mind loves what's familiar. So if you've been saying to yourself, you know, oh, I'm shit, or I'm not good enough, etc. So, you know, one of the ways of doing it is to, you know, obviously, you know, work with somebody, you know, have some therapy work, go back to the root cause or the time when this idea came into the mind. And then, of course, there's transforming that and changing what is unfamiliar to become familiar. You know, so, you know, affirmations, repetitions, you know, writing it, you know, down, you know, I am enough, I am worthy, you know, whatever those words might be for you. You know, that's one place to start kind of reprogramming the mind, if you like. And Elke's just saying here about, you know, you can actually reprogram the mind. But also, you know, there's some real tangible tools. So first of all, you're right, be yourself. Everybody else is taken. You know, you cannot be replaced. You are the only person that's you. You know, everybody's unique, as we know that. And also, it's if you're in business, you know, we get this a lot. I had a phone call yesterday, actually, from a lady who was looking to do some work with me. Now, she was a hypnotherapist already. So that I use hypnotherapy as part of the rapid transformational therapy work that I do. And so we were talking away. So she knew the power. She knows that you can't really do the investigation, you know, on your own. That's why Marion helps me a lot, and vice versa. We're helping other people who are maybe in similar roles as us. But you can't do it on your own. It's not as effective because the mind gets in the way, you see. So we're talking away, and then I said to her, yeah, I can definitely help you, with what you talked about. I've had experience before, helped, thousands of people have been helped with this strategy and this system. So I know absolutely that this can work for you. And then she said, all right, she goes, and it was actually to do with undervaluing herself, right? And so she said, how much does it cost? I told her the price, and she went really quiet. And I said, you don't think that you're worth that, do you? She said, well, that's not what I charge. I said, well, there you go. There's 2 counts of you undervaluing yourself. 1, you don't think you're worthy of this investment, even though we know that it will help you. And 2, you are not charging enough for your service, or you do not believe in your service. Yeah. Because if you phone up a restaurant and say to them, oh, I'm thinking of coming to your restaurant, can you tell me a bit about it? They don't go, well, it's an average restaurant. We've got average chairs. The meals are all right. The chef's okay. No, they're going to say to you, this is a brilliant restaurant. Got 5 stars, 3 stars, Michelin stars, whatever. They're going to big themselves up. And then guess which restaurant you'd rather go to? And that's the same with your clients. That's the same with, people who want to hang around with you. If you're like sitting in the corner going, oh, I don't really feel like I'm worthy, then who wants to hang around with you? It kind of starts to be a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. So it's got to come from within, hasn't it? You've got to value. We've got another lovely lady joining us here. So we've got Renera. So she loves that we're all doing different.
Hello, lovely. Renara's a friend of mine who trained. We both trained in EFT and matrix re-imprinting. And Renara is magic. She does colours and colour sprays and colour therapy stuff. She's one of the most lovely ladies that I know, and we've got a lot in common, me and Renara. It's really good to see you, darling. Mwah.
So there you go, Renara. You're definitely valued, aren't you? And LK,
we're all the same, and we all feel different.
Also saying, I also say free yourself from the need for external validation. Yeah, being different is great, and definitely be yourself. Absolutely, because if you can't be yourself, then you're probably going to struggle, putting effort and time into trying to be somebody that you think other people will like. And guess what? There'll still be some people who don't like you. So you might as well be yourself. It's easier. Will everybody like you? No. Does it matter? No. As long as you like yourself and you can value yourself. As part of the program, what we do in terms of when we've got ladies and gentlemen who have got businesses and they're in the foundation, one of the difficult things in business is, what do I charge for my services? Yeah. Because, the services that we've got, I mean, Maz, how many years have you spent, gathering all your tools and techniques?
Well, prior to working in the field I do now, I was being a computer programmer, and that was a really good foundation, because now I do people deprogramming. And so understanding how to recognize programming, what to do about it, all of those things I trained in since I've been doing it since school, since uni, because that was my job. But actually getting into the nitty gritty, when I started studying, it was with yoga and the Yoga Sutras and all of the really the background, the scholarly aspect of yoga. And I've been doing that since the early 1990s. I took it really, really seriously just after the year 2000. So it's nearly 20 years, isn't it, that I've been really seriously involved in understanding more about who I am in my relationship to the world around me. And now I know that with that knowledge, I actually can help a lot of other people as well, not just me. So it's great. I love it. So it's a long time in the learning, and yet still I have huge lessons, sometimes on a daily basis, that shift me to another level of understanding or another level of expression of what I've got, because it's easy to get information in your head, isn't it? We can read, we can listen, we can take the programs in as a mental process, but the difficulty then is living and acting out what it is that is the wisdom that you've taken on. Because so often we know loads of information, and I know as teachers, I would suggest 99% of us or more who are teachers, we teach what we most need to practice. Because when we practice something and we practice it constantly, we don't need to teach it, because we automatically emanate it. We automatically, like as a role model, we show other people what to do. And when you're showing people what to do, you don't need to teach them, because the lessons come through your actions. So when we're teaching knowledge and information and we're trying to pack a load of information into people's heads, I think most of the time it's because we're not actually embodying it, we're not living it. And that's the really difficult thing. There's a really lovely quote that the longest journey is the 18 inches from your brain to your heart. I suppose it depends how tall you are, really, doesn't it? Is it 18 inches? But it's
Mr. Chapman tells me that's 18 inches.
Oh.
12 inches.
Yeah, it's about right, actually.
Very scientific. Oh, look, it is, I think.
About 18 inches. So these scientific research and everything is peer-reviewed. I just saw you do it.
Yes, exactly. Yes, it's true, because we just proved it. Yeah, I mean, you know, it is a difficult one, isn't it? So you've been training for 30 years to do what you do. You know, I've spent hours training for the RTT, and yet, you know, it's got nothing to do with the, like as in, you know, so someone comes for a session with us, you know, 2-3 hours, you know, maybe someone comes on a retreat with us, you know, or someone does our online program. It's not really what that product is. It's the fact that you've had X amount of years, you've worked out what works, what doesn't work. You know, you may be doing things, you know, we always, you know, whatever we do, we've either experienced ourselves or we have seen success, you know, and had success, or we've seen success in other people. It's usually a mixture of the two things. It starts with, you know, does this work for me? And if it works for me, then can this work for other people? So there's all this going on in the background. So if anybody's in any kind of coaching, you know, training, you know, if you've got a service where you're helping people, you know, or if you've got a product, you've spent all that time creating something that can change somebody's life. You know, and it might only take 2 hours to do that and free them from, you know, the past of, I don't know, 50 years, you know, 30 years, whatever that might be. But actually, it's the result that is the value to them. You know, and you hear the, you know, oh, it's priceless, you know, what was that advert? Some sort of MasterCard or something, wasn't it? You know, trip to the Alps, £3,000, champagne waiting, £100, you know, comfy soft bed, you know, 500 quid, you know, wife being happy, you know, priceless, that kind of thing. Well, it is priceless because you can't put a value on that. So how do you know what to charge? Well, of course, at the retreat, we spend, you know, at least half a day working out how you can increase your value. And it starts with you. So that now we know that we can say, you know, to work with us, it costs X amount of pounds. And we know that that is the price because that is the value of us. So, you know, if anybody's interested in find out more about that, then please pop a little note. I was going to say down below. That looks so rude. I was working with a client today. It was really funny. And he went, and press the button down below. I went, you do know you are pointing to your cock. And I was like, if that's the value, if that's free, so maybe I'm teaching myself now, Marion. Oh dear, what have we got here? Got some more comments here. Oh, so saying, stop it.
Bring it on.
So, yeah, and Elke is here as well. So thank you very much, ladies, for joining us. As I said, you know, if you just let us know if this time is good for you, if you're watching on the recording. So the main thing is, you know, why are you undervaluing yourself? Well, it could be because it's something that happened to you as a child where someone said, you know, you're not worth it. Maybe it's not so obvious, those words, but something around that. Or like the story about the guy whose father wouldn't even give him the crumbs off his plate, if you like. And then, you know, notice if you're undervaluing yourself. Are you trying to be somebody else? Are you stopping yourself moving forward because you're really, you know, a bit nervous about how someone might reject you? You know, so notice it, and then, of course, start to be yourself and start to really give yourself, you know, this knowledge, affirmations, you know, trying to change that mind fuck is what I was going to say. So much.
Well, it's true.
You know, and replace it, because otherwise the mind
from mind fucked to mindful.
Yeah, exactly. Hello, Elizabeth. Elizabeth is saying hello. So hope that you've enjoyed.
I think also, though, it's not just with it. It's not just, because it's such an institutionalized way of thinking. This whole thing around value, that the childhood trauma will create really deep wounds that will represent the lack of value. And then that, including all of the toxic sort of environmental, you've got no value because the external world doesn't believe you are whatever they think you're supposed to be. That added together, it does make it a really, really big problem for so many people, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think what was lovely was, you know, when Renara came on, you know, you obviously like remembered her, you know, you've got a connection with her. So there's another, you know, a tip of the day, if you like. You know, if you're feeling undervalued, get around people who will understand and support you and actually help you to move the fuck away from that. Because, you know, the self-pity party isn't going to work. You've got to do some work. You've got to invest, you know, in yourself. You've got to invest in, you know, getting around the right people. And, you know, of course, you know, we've got the Live, Love, Laugh Lounge for the women and we've got the Man Cave for the men. You know, for 20 quid a month, you know, there's lots of value in there. But even if it's, you know, it doesn't have to be our community, but make sure that you get around people who do value you for being you.
Yes.
Saying, you know, childhood trauma is huge for a lot of people. Of course it is. Yeah. But of course, you know, you don't want to stay stuck in that trauma. It may be you need to do a little bit of extra work, you know, go through a little bit of therapy. Or, you know, it may just be that you just need to get in with a new in crowd, if you like.
And also don't forget about the layers within trauma, because one of the things that, I know we both know this, so many of our clients end up, they say, well, no, I've sorted that one out. I've dealt with that memory before, or the phrases along those lines. That when we perceive that we've been into a trauma, if we know about trauma healing or we know about releasing or letting go or clearing, when you go to memories and you begin to clear them, those memories themselves have got layers within them of how you were even in a place to have that trauma. So that single trauma's got foundations and roots as well. And those roots can be quite deep and they can unfold in a multitude of ways. So visiting the same trauma can actually really deepen the processing of the clearing and healing that's needed as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for joining us, ladies. Guess what? We really do value you.
We do.
For taking your valuable time and sharing it with us, and for your comments, Elke, Elizabeth and
Renara.
You're all very, very, very lovely, lovely, lovely beings.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes, so thank you for joining us. Tomorrow we will have another wise question of the day. So why do I... All will be revealed, so keep an eye out on Facebook. And remember to let us know if this is a good time for you or if there's a better time for you to connect with us. And until then, remember to live, love and laugh every day. And it's goodbye from me, and it is...
Goodbye from her.